Hello guys, it's I'm reacting of this video called Christmas Special Grogar, a heartwarming horror story part 2, My Little Pony Grimdark reading. As you know, I reacted to part 1 and that, excuse my language, bitch was meant to be killed. Yeah, anyway, at least in the story, not in the show, but in the story, because she was a, yeah, she was a pain in the poo side. Anyway, let's get this reaction started. 3, 2, 1, go. Right. There goes the music of horrors.
Applejack and Granny Smith arrived in the living room at roughly the same time to find the assembled ponies in quite a state.
Really?
Apple Bloom was trying to console Sweetie Belle's unyielding screams, even as her own eyes ran with tears. Scooby was holding a shrieking diamond tiara by the tail.
Did Sweetie Belle have a little squeak to her voice?
To keep the filly from running towards the now dry and cold fireplace.
Cold and dry.
Sat on the couch, unmoving.
Settee.
Small streams of tears running down from his wide eyes. All attention was on the fireplace.
Fireplace?
What the hey is going on in here?
That's quite an echo, isn't it?
Shh. The pony's head snapped to her as one, and the farmer found herself suddenly besieged by the 5 ponies. They all talked at once, their words muffled by each other's voices, and their one at a time. Applejack shushed the lie as best she could, her eyes locking with those of her little sister. Apple Bloom, what happened? Why is every pony so upset?
Because someone got killed?
Couldn't say a word. Granny Smith finished her head count.
By that jingling,
and where
jingling?
did that Silver Spoon get to? Apple Bloom
She's kaput, mate.
The sound of Silver Spoon's name, and she plunged her face into her sister's neck to muffle her cries of horror. Something took her. Her sister's hot tears in her fur urged Applejack
Someone
to action.
took her.
Who took her? We don't know. Button Mash had taken Apple Bloom's place in comforting Sweetie Belle.
It was Santa Claus in a Christmas outfit with chains in his foot.
Panting sobs. This chain thing came out of the chimney and just pulled her away. Granny Smith stopped in her comforting of Diamond Tiara and
It was a chain reaction.
You say a chain took her? Button Mash nodded quickly and wiped his muzzle clear of mucus. Something blew the fire out, and this chain just shot out of nowhere and grabbed her. Diamond Tiara's eyes fell upon the fireplace, and she made an attempt to run into it.
How big is this chain?
We have to save her. We have to.
She's dead.
Granny Smith pulled the squirming filly against her and leaned close to her ear. She's gone, Gumdrop. I'm sorry, but she's already gone. Diamond Tiara looked up at the old mare in confusion. How do you... From upstairs came the sound of shattering glass and the rush of wind. Applejack's eyes widened in fear. The doggone wind blew in a window. I better go see if Mac needs help.
Blew in the window? That means someone blew... Someone actually smashed the window from the outside then. Okay.
Go check, but be quick.
Go back to my
Keep away from the windows. Applejack looked at her grandmother. Why? Just do as I say, girl.
Just do what I say, girl!
Was harsh and severe as the crack of a whip. The assembled ponies jumped at her tone, even Applejack. Never mind fixing any broken windows you find. I take it you didn't find marble? Stunned at Granny taking
No, she was playing marbles.
Applejack just nodded. Then she's upstairs. Fetch her and your brother and get back down here lickety-split, you hear? Again. Applejack nodded.
I can't say lickety
Granny
split.
watched as her eldest granddaughter mounted the stairs and started up. She turned attention back to the little ponies around her. She focused on Apple Bloom and Button Mash as the two who seemed to be most in control of themselves.
Oh, shit.
Neil, it's starting to get mad at chilly in here already. You two take the others into the kitchen to get warm.
I need to open the window and actually feel chills.
Apple Bloom opened her mouth to protest Granny's going near the fireplace, but found a wrinkled green hoof blocking her words. I'll be fine, I promise. I know how to keep safe. Without explaining any further, she nudged the little ponies towards the kitchen door and made for the fireplace. Scootaloo was the last in line.
I know, what could
you cast a paranoid eye at Granny Smith as she set to work to rebuild the fire. and she seemed to be...
Why can't you just block the fireplace up?
Scootaloo shook her head.
That would be
again
just block the
towards
fireplace
kitchen,
up. Why you couldn't
but
do
found
that
herself
actually?
gazing at the stairs instead. Applejack shivered.
I do like the sound
as she
effect actually,
mounted the landing of the
because
second
it sounds like a nuclear
The freezing
wind.
gusted and blew down the hallway. Small flakes
sounds
of snow
like
floating in the air
doom,
now and then.
basically.
Her teeth chattering.
Doom. That if you go outside, you're basically dead.
And looked around for any source of light. The wind had blown the hall's lanterns out. Gritting her teeth to stop their irritating dancing, she nudged open the door to her own bedroom and sighed in relief. Her room's lantern was still lit. She carefully clasped her teeth onto the handle and pulled it into the hallway, shielding the dancing flame from the elements with the hoof.
This
She
reminds
very
me
nearly
of the
dropped
episode
the
with
chair in shock as the candle illuminated the hallway.
no, not you, Sweetie Belle.
The hallway
It reminds me.
was frozen. Not
It reminds
coated in
me
a little snow,
of the
but frozen.
with the cake
Walls and ceiling
and the
coated in
weird
a film
camera
of
angle.
ice as thin and as delicate as glass. The
And she
hardwood
was-
floor lost its snow
Pinkie
banks,
Pie was babysitting
some almost
them.
knee-high. Most shocking of all were the icicles that now stretched from the ceiling, reaching down like crystal teeth that beckoned down the
Okay, has to be into the figures.
As the snow crunched beneath her hooves, Applejack did her darndest to figure out what was going on. The blizzard had been bad before, but now it was something unreal, almost unnatural. Curious, she paused a moment to push against an icy stalactite. It gave easily and broke away, burying itself in the snow. As Applejack watched, an identical icicle immediately slid into existence.
Now that's
Even without the
spooky.
freezing wind, Applejack suddenly felt very cold. She continued along towards the two rooms at the end of the hall, Big Mac's and Apple Bloom's. Both their doors
I'm
were
expecting a
wide
very
open. The
slow
broken window could be in either
door
one.
opening or something.
Big Mac's doorframe was curiously free of snow. The wind began to blow in earnest the closer she got to her destination.
It kind of reminds me
Felt her hat blow back
of
down the
Day
hallway,
After Tomorrow when
closed her eyes against the
the
onset.
whole room was getting icy.
Each step took a huge effort, and she swore she could feel icicles forming along her fur. Still, she pushed on.
You might
as the
die,
feeling
Sweetie
in
Belle,
her
be
nose
careful.
wasted to nothing. Deep down, she began to wonder if she would freeze to death right there, right at the threshold. Of
Okay,
her
the natural
bed.
thing to do will set
She took what
set
she
the fire
imagined
the
was
fireplace,
the final
but that could
step.
be the last thing you ever do.
And stumbled into Mac's room as the wind suddenly stopped. Applejack's eyes shot open, and she looked around in the room, ready for anything. Almost anything. This time, her jaw did drop, and this time the lantern did fall to the ground and crack against the hardwood floor. The
What?
hardwood floor that was completely
I don't think you're gonna be
full of
alone in this room. I think there's some presents in this
untouched by
room.
the elements,
Not Christmas
safe
presents, but
from the
presents.
obviously still freezing temperature. There were no icicles, no snow, and no glassy surfaces of frozen water. The room's main window had been thrown open with such a force that all the panes of glass had shattered. The tempest loomed outside, all howling wind and whirling snow. But not a gust of wind blew into the bedroom itself.
Okay.
A whimper came from her left. Applejack spun to find a shivering lump in the blankets on Big Mac's bed. She inched toward it and reached out with one unsteady hoof. Big Mac? She asked, unsure if it was lurking fear or cold that added the quake
Yup.
to her voice. The trembling lump froze, and then lunged at her. Applejack stifled a scream as Marble Pie
Big Mac has
tackled her to
been
the floor,
possessed.
her eyes wide and rimmed in red. She was beyond crying, beyond fear and screaming. She gaped like a fish out of water, pounding at her chest with almost no real strength. Applejack forced the mirror off of her and forced her to focus on her. Marble! What happened? Marble gulped and gestured at the window, her unblinking eyes not leaving Applejack's. Did Big Mac go outside? Marble nodded. Did it fall? She shook her head. Applejack grew irritated. Land's sake, girl! If he didn't fall, then how did he go outside? Pulled. The chill returned to Applejack's heart as she remembered what her sister had said.
What'd she say?
Pulled by what, Marble? Marble's reply was the tiniest of whimpered screams. Applejack shook the mare slightly. Marble, focus! What pulled my brother out the window? Marble's eyes finally closed. One last tear ran down her face.
How would you describe him now?
He did. She slumped to the floor in a dead faint. Applejack was getting ready to shake the mare awake when she heard another sound behind her. It's true! She spun to find Skulu staring at the window with wide eyes. Scoot! Get your flank back downstairs this instant! It's all true! Don't you get it? Scootaloo's tiny wings
Fuck
buzzed
me, that's a good
frantically.
Scootaloo.
It's Grogar!
Sorry,
He's come for us! Just like Granny said! Gonna take us and eat us or make us burn forever or... Scootaloo! Applejack actually had to yell to be heard over the filly's continually rising voice. That's just a story.
Fillies are heard, not seen.
Here, help me get Marble downstairs. Scootaloo was hyperventilating now.
That's gonna be a hard job,
Her
isn't
mind
it?
was going numb as every nightmare and night terror began to coalesce into a new, singular form, that of a monstrous ram with a voracious appetite for pony flesh. We have to get away! This might be our only chance! He's probably still eating Big Mac. We have to go, now! Before he eats all of us like he did Silver Spoon!
He eats the ponies?
Applejack realized
That's
what the feeling was.
disgusting!
Wait! He's not going to eat me too! Scootaloo squealed as she bolted to the open window, her shrunken wings that had never lifted her more than a few inches popped
Whoa,
open.
technically
as
you'd be
she
eating
took a
chicken.
giant leap into the air. Applejack watched in horror as her orange
I know, bad joke,
vanished
but
into
yeah.
the glowing white. She left Marble's unconscious body and galloped toward the window. Scootaloo! She screamed.
Scootaloo!
Her voice was swallowed by the shrieking wind. For a moment, that shrieking was all that she heard. Then another sound made itself known. It was still shrieking, but in a much higher pitch. Applejack threw herself backwards as Scootaloo blasted through the snow and back through the window. Her mouth was open in an unending shriek of terror, her eyes wide and pleading for help. Her buzzing wings were held captive against her by several long lengths of chain from which hung a number of golden bells that seemed to be singing harmony with the filly's cries. Scootaloo's one free hoof stretched out into the open air.
That proves that Scootaloo wasn't chicken.
Her screaming stopped, and she peered at Applejack with the eyes of a fool. The eyes of trust. The eyes of knowing that the older ponies can always save the day. That they can always chase away the nightmares. Help me, she whimpered.
Is that their final last words? Help me.
Tight, and she was gone.
It sounds like that's to be like their last words. Help me.
And into the nothingness of the night.
Oh, you're dead, Scootaloo.
Applejack touched her hoof.
Oh dear.
And was not surprised in the least to find that she
Rest
was
in
correct.
peace, chicken.
The taking of Scootaloo seemed to break some spell. The room was suddenly filled with freezing wind that whipped and snapped in the air. Snow began to pile against the walls, and the long icicles
Okay, sweetheart.
from the
Sorry.
doing her best to pull herself together. Applejack grabbed Marble's nape in her teeth and dragged her out of the room. She pulled her dead weight across the hall's ever deeper snow banks, pausing only to grab her hat before it was blown away forever. She didn't look back when the wind slammed to the door to Big Mac's room. The sound it made was not unlike the sealing of a tomb. The little pony's heads turned as one to see Applejack fall down the last few steps and land in a heap, a slowly stirring marble pie beside her. Applejack! Applebloom ran to her sister's side and checked her for inches.
Hang on.
Are y'all right? Is Marble okay?
Okay.
What's going on up there? What was all that screaming we heard? What?
I just thought something about it. I'll do it after the reaction. I'll do it after the video.
She looked up the staircase. Where's Big Mac? Sweetie Belle, who had done a head count,
Go to McDonald's.
she gathered her wits by the warm stove, measured her next words carefully. And where's Scootaloo? Applejack.
I'm not going to say where she's gone to because
closed her eyes.
I better stop there.
Away. No. Applebloom whispered. No. She stared at her sister, unbelieving, and smashed her hoof into the floorboards. No! She began to beat the floor over and over again, punctuating each smash with another scream of no! Applejack grabbed her little sister and held her close. She whispered reassurances and calming words into her ear until the little filly's rage was nothing more than a chest-racking sob of despair. Sweetie Belle found that she no longer had the will to cry. She simply turned and hugged against Button Mash again, who thankfully had the presence of mind to put his foreleg around her.
I got a sweet ball up in that.
Her sorrow and
yeah, I got a sweet ball there as well.
Diamond Tiara's gaze fell upon Granny Smith. The old mare had built a roaring fire, 4 times as big and blazing as the first. Even now, she arranged more firewood to be in easy reach. Her shoulders had slumped only a little at the news of her grandson's demise, but still, she worked. And Diamond Tiara decided she wanted to know why.
Why?
You know why this is happening, don't you? She asked, making her way.
Because you don't believe in a story?
You've known this the whole time. The others took notice and also filed into.
You can't predict this,
either for the talking or the warmth.
You can't predict. You can't
Marble
guess
finally
this.
stood on unsteady legs just long enough to throw herself onto the love seat and resume crying into the cushions. Granny Smith stared at the crackling pyre she had built and sighed heavily. I know. Granny? Applejack asked. Granny Smith snorted irritably.
Tell me what's going on.
Figures it would happen on one of my last hearth warmings. Couldn't just enjoy one more happy holiday with my family now, could I? Granny, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I figured I was out of the woods after you hit marehood and nothing happened. You were always such a trusting little filly. I should have figured it would be one of Applebloom's friends that were the real danger. What danger? Diamond Tiara was at the old mare's side. She looked at her with pleading eyes.
What danger?
What's out there? Granny Smith's eyes reflected the dancing flames. His name is Grogar, and like I said before, he ain't just an old pony's tail. When I was just a filly, back before we came to Ponyville, my family lived on a small communal farm up in Old Dream Valley. Back in those days, there were quite a few of us that helped each other out where we could. There was Apples, of course, and Tops, the Patch family, the Harvests, and Peachy King's clan. The Save family had to slip away from us at that point.
She says Peachy Chips.
They'd find their way to Manhattan not long after and make friendly with the Oranges. All we had in those days was each other, so every celebration was shared by one and all. Birthdays, Nightmare Night, the Summer Sun celebration. We looked forward to all of them in turn, but Hearthwoman was by far
she's scared
our favorite,
and sad at the same time.
Because we knew Santa Hooves was coming and bringing us new toys and sweets that we just couldn't find in the valley. Everything changed on my 12th Hearthwarming Eve.
Will this happen if you stop believing?
My best friend back in those days was Pumpkin Patch. Me and that filly were the scariest set of hellions in all of Dream Valley.
Sounds like a ship.
We were always shirking our chores to play in the woods and enticing the other fillies and colts into staging mock battles between the armies of Princess Celestia and Nightmare Moon. Our parents did their darndest to keep us from straying too far from the path of what was right, though. When we were the smallest, the threat of not getting gifts for Hearthwoman was more than enough. When we got a mite older,
did you do this in one take?
Grogar that made us remember our manners and friendship lessons. On Hearthwarming Eve, Pumpkin Patch pulled me aside and confided me something she had heard her mama talking about. There was no Santa Hooves. Our toys and sweets were purchased by the adults through the year during the grown-ups' occasional trips to nearby Paradise Estate. They'd hide them, then give them to us on Hearthwarming morning and tell us they were just from Santa Hooves. I called my best friend in the whole world a liar. We fought so bitterly that it came to blows. Our foes had to pull us apart to keep us from tearing each other's tails out. I remember Pumpkin screaming that I wasn't her best friend anymore because real friends trusted each other. When she said those words, I swear I could feel the air getting colder. A horrible blizzard descended on Dream Valley that night. The worst even our oldest ponies could remember having seen. The wind howled a banshee wail, and the snow piled high against every exit from the valley. I remember looking out the window and seeing huge icicles rising where our crops were supposed to be. The cabin the Tops lived in became lost in a small avalanche. They took shelter with us since we were the closest neighbors. They were so shocked by the loss of everything they owned that it was a while before they realized their youngest had vanished. That's when we heard the bells. My pa didn't miss a beat. Jingles. He and the other grown-ups started boarding up the windows and building the fire. We had us youngins rather in the center of the cabin and stayed there. I was just starting to fall asleep when I heard some opponent banging on the front door. It was the harvest. They were in a blind panic, babbling about chains and bells. From the storm being behind them, I swear I could hear the giggling of fools and the crunching of snow beneath small hooves. Just before Pa managed to get the door shut, I know that I saw something else out there in the storm.
So I was wondering about this
I know
story at the
it saw me too.
It saw you?
We spent the night huddled together like baby birds, taking turns keeping the fire roaring and singing heartwarming carols to pass the time. At some point, I must have fallen asleep. I dreamed I saw Pumpkin Patch at the window. She was laughing and crying at the same time. Her eyes were gone. The next day, the storm vanished as quick as it had come.
That is spooky. That
sounds
sounds
and low, but we never found hide nor hair of any member of the Patches or the Keens. Their houses were full of snow and ice, but there was no blood, no bodies. We
vanished into thin air.
That very next day, the ponies stared in awe as Granny Smith finished her tale, satisfied that the fire would burn for some time yet. She pulled herself into her rocker and looked at them all. A pony's first heart's warming after getting their cue marks is the most dangerous time of all. Y'all start feeling so grown up that you start to question things. First little things like Santa hooves, then bigger things like friendship itself. That's what calls to Grogar, the spirit of disharmony. That betrayal of the most sacred truth of ponydom. To question the very nature of friendship on Hearthwarming Eve itself is borderline blasphemy. Some of you have done just that.
okay.
You have, and now we are all being punished.
Was she done bad?
Button Mash blinked with watery eyes. But I still believe in Santa hooves. I haven't even got my cutie mark yet. Why am I being punished?
That's a good question.
And why did it take Mac? Marble asked in a quiet, trembling tone of voice. He wasn't a fool. It ain't about what you believe or how old you are anymore. Granny snapped impatiently. He's here now, and he will not stop until he has claimed us all. Applejack hugged Applebloom close and gazed at her grandmother in desperation. Isn't there anything else we can't do? Granny Smith sighed and looked up.
What can you do?
We stick together, we keep the fire hot, we'll wait for the sun to come up, and you, she pointed a hoof at Sweetie Belle, I need you to tell me something.
What?
What? The unicorn squeaked. Granny offered the kindest smile she could muster in the situation. How many heartwarming carols do you know? Granny's smile was so warm that
a fire of friendship lives in the heart. It was not
you. Damatira watched everything quietly. Silver Spoon's cracked glasses still held in her hooves. And the singing began.
What singing? What's... No. What singing? Fire of friendship lives in the heart. Is that the song? Okay, that's the end of that reaction. Oh, yes. Okay, we're talking about theory. I'm not sure if this is right or not.
No.
I think it goes from right to left, back to right, back to left, back to right. The last one's going to be killed will be Button Mash. That is my theory. Because last story it was Silver Spoon, Then it's Scootaloo, and I think it will be Diamond Tiara next, and vice versa. Maybe Apple Bloom can speak to Diamond Tiara actually. I'm sorry, Sweetie Belle. It's fate. Sorry, it's fate. It's technically fate, and I think, in a way, if you tell apparently the voice-over artist, voice-over person, doesn't know the full story. Even he's in the dark. Okay. Okay, my theory is basically, if you tell your friend that Santa Claus does not exist, you are going to die. Who tell that person that Santa Claus doesn't exist? Do I need to redo that again? I don't do that again. I tell you that Santa Claus does not exist, so I'm punished for telling you that. Is that even clearer? And sort of thing, it's sort of thing that you find about yourself. You know you find out to yourself that Santa Claus does not exist. You don't need some pony to tell you that. You need to find. It's basically you have to find that information yourself, like Tooth Fairy and stuff. Like young kids, young fillies will believe in the Tooth Fairy, and it's not until you discover that it's totally crap. There's no such thing. Okay, according to my friend, SB and BM, that sounds like British Museum, but Buttermash believe. They still believe, but you haven't read the full story. Yeah, I mean, would he believe in other chapters? Exactly. That's my thing. He believes it in chapter 1, probably in chapter 2. But later down the line, would he still believe after what's going on? Why is Buttermash being the target as well? And why kill Big Mac? Is it because of hamburgers? Oh, this is good. Stop this video, cause I don't know what's going to happen in the next reading. I do think the theory at the moment is going left to right, but that could be completely bull. You know what? And I will see you in my next video. Oh, yes.